Well, Phenix died on us yet again. It was promptly decided that the likely culprit is the motor, so before we remembered to grab a camera, the patient was already being slowly opened.
Trochę się pinko chyba
Skorodowawszy?
zniechęciło się.
O. Nie chce. Doesn't want to.
But with patience and determination, the pin has been conquered.
Widać nic.
What you cannot see is a bunch of crusty rust flakes.
Yikes.
Well, I guess we found the problem.
Unglued magnets.
Now, at this point, we could have went to Torqueedo's website and checked that the motor bell costs $205. Instead, we proceeded on the premise that we cannot make it any more broken. So, why not try to fix it? Thus, after initial excavations, Bartek proceeded to remove the gearbox. That gave us access to the circlip. One day we'll cave in and get the proper tool. We really should get that tool.
Few moments later.
No, troszkę go zmasakrowałem. Ciekawe jak ja mam to odkręcić teraz tej. Nie. Oj nie.
Nie. Nope.
Two screws stood in our way to free the motor, and we were lucky enough that after finding the proper Allen key, they were quite well behaving.
Za wcześnie?
Ależ tu mam ruchu.
Lucky day.
Tyle to mi to nic nie daje.
Zawsze coś.
No nie. No widzisz, tu masz przerwy, nie? Tu nie ma przerwy. Tu też nie ma przerwy. No to się wszystko... Gdzie to są te, co się ruszały? Te tutaj sobie szczęśliwie jeżdżą, nie? Teraz to coś trzeba by już...
For further disassembly, Bartek created a smart little jig which, powered by the magic force of threads, pulled the stator out of the bell right after the battery in the camera died. But as you can see, the bell was liberated. Before taking out all the magnets, Bartek took out just one and used it to double check their arrangement. Just as we would imagine, it was a push-pull kind of situation. So now it was time to clean. Unsolicited piece of advice: when working with neodymium magnets, keep those sneaky magnetic pixies far away from each other. Next day, the bell got derusted using diluted acid, and I'm not wearing gloves because it's pretty mild and I'm obviously a goof. Much better. Of course, new rust would start forming immediately, so we continued with the prep. To separate the magnets and prevent them from moving while the slippery epoxy cures, we decided to go with the packing tape covered stir sticks. But before busting out the resin, we first did a dry run to see how unruly the magnets would be.
Bardzo dobrze to wygląda.
This part went quite smoothly. We first wanted to both epoxy in the magnets and fill the gaps between them in one go, but somewhere around here
Zrobić teraz.
our experiment showed us that if we added slippery epoxy to the mix, the whole thing would be just too risky.
No dobrze, to nie będziemy wyciągać.
Okej.
Wręcz nawet włożę z powrotem.
So we would do it in 2 sessions.
One last check.
No dobrze, to co? Sip, nie? Już trudno brałem, już go. Pierwszy to tam najprostszy, nie?
I would gladly show you that process, but between empty batteries and no space left on device warnings, by the time I handled it, Bartek was pretty much done.
No.
Czy widać?
Boję się.
Też.
Może zaczniemy od tych takich tutaj.
Next morning, the slow curing epoxy was still a bit elastic, but we thought it was solid enough to proceed. As you can see, the outside also got a fresh coat of epoxy. Unfortunately, despite all the checking Bartek did, 3 magnets got switched around and needed to be reglued.
Coś tu jest nie tak. Coś tu jest skawcone, co z tym tutaj.
Luckily, as the resin hasn't fully kicked in yet, it wasn't that big of a deal.
To na pewno. Który to jeszcze był? Tam, nie?
tiny batch was mixed and thickened with seal.
Już ją wdychamy teraz. To tak.
Bartek also filled the gaps between the magnets to give them another barrier to hopefully stop them from moving in the future, even if they would unglue.
Dobrze się trzyma.
With all the magnets now in the proper configuration, we just needed to fill in the last gaps before it could be put back together. The O-rings also got cleaned, though at the end we decided to skip them altogether. Okay, one more thing. We really didn't want to deal with changing this bearing, but we decided to at least give it a clean.
Jak to? No. Jest. Teraz można ruszać palcem.
It did seem a little bit less crusty after this procedure.
Wszystko koryguje, nie?
A pinch of grease. And it was time for the stator to go back in.
Fajnie z twojej strony łożysko.
O,
Jak ja mam to teraz?
little bit of persuasion.
Jeszcze tutaj byśmy musieli. Crunchy.
Of course, the circlip was pretty much as annoying on the way back as it was on the way out.
Pomóc?
No staram się, no.
To my defense, I'll just say I'm working with manual focus here.
Nie było satysfakcjonującego klik.
Klik.
Słyszałaś satysfakcjonujący klik?
Nie.
Co ja teraz robię? Ja nie wiem, czy ludzie to powinni widzieć. Nie wiem teraz, czy go tutaj wciskać. Chyba go tak wciskać, nie? Że jednak nie tak było.
Przeleć, czy trzeba go przerzucić?
Bartek reconnected the three phase cables.
Chyba tak.
And we were ready for the first tests.
W sumie nie nakręciliśmy tego, co z nim było nie tak.
Jak to zwykle u nas.
There was a short moment of anxiety due to
No, pip, pip, pip.
we let it run for a while to check if everything was working fine.
Phenix resurrected once again.
With all the parameters nominal, including heat, we could close it up.
This time we're skipping these.
Coś trzeba by włożyć, żebyśmy mieli jak śrubki wkręcić, nie?
Last bit of a hiccup that we were facing was the fact that the plastic threads holding the caps together were somewhat worn out. We opted for a quite savage solution of simply shoving small wooden pieces in to give the threads something to bite into.
Nie wiem, czy tam po prostu coś jest, czy... Nie?
If it works, it works.
Some were a bit more fussy than others, but it worked out in the end.
Coś mi łazi, jak na złość. Smush. Smush.
The pin needed a bit of convincing going out and back in, but that might be due to the fact that it's actually a rivet, not exactly a pin.
Zwykły smar na lipsila.
With Phenix put back together, all that was left was to take it for a spin. And here our YouTubing skills came out to really shine, yet again, as we didn't film anything after that. But no worries, some days later we were going to land to prep the fabric for a new proa sail, and we did film that, so here it is working. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.